In the first lesson, I talked about how to avoid fighting at all costs. But as we all know, sometimes we don't get to pick the fight picks us. So today I want to talk about what to do when you're in a fight. But to do that, we have to understand what fighting really is. Fighting is not being able to apply techniques. You have to think of fighting as a mode you enter. You know, it's a concept. Because you can know all the techniques in the world, but if you get overwhelmed with either adrenaline, fear, or bad judgment, you will lose no matter what technique you know. Many people haven't been in a fight. I'm talking, like 90% of the world population have never been in a fight. They have spent their whole life avoiding fights. I believe that is what brought us to this situation we're in the first place. I think it's very natural for people to learn about their fight and flight mode. Because if you enter this mode, it will change your body and your concepts and your logic. It will change everything in an instant. If you can't understand what's happening with you when a real fight starts, you will be overwhelmed by it and you will be a deer in the headlight. That's just a fact. I know this because I've been there. I was a rowdy youngster. I learned how to fight the hard way. I even learned how to fight before I started martial arts. I started boxing so that I could be better at fighting because I was in fights a lot when I was young. Not the other way around, And to understand what's happening when a fight starts, we have to understand adrenaline. Adrenaline is a big factor. It is what kicks in this fight or flight mode. It's designed to either get the fuck out of there or run through the opposition. That's what it's there for. It is to give you a very intense energy boost for a very, very short period of time. And if we know this, we can use it to our benefits, and we can learn to control it. And that's the main factor. You can learn to control it by understanding that it's not meant for you to think. And many people have this notion, when I get a situation, I just do this or do that. If he does this, and then I'm going to do that, and my counter and this. All that shit is gone Friday night at the pub. I promise you. Adrenaline will take away every rational thought you have. The only decision you have to make when you're in the situation, if you're unable to keep calm and put your ego in check and walk away, the only thing you have to decide is whether to run through him or run away. That's it. Because otherwise your adrenaline will build up in you. If you stand there and try to think, while you're producing the adrenaline, it will overwhelm you and will put you in a state of shock. Stress, shock. And you'll start shaking, you'll be grounded, you'll be a deer in the headlight. And there's nothing you can do about that feeling. If you're overwhelmed, you're overwhelmed. You better give up at that point. Don't try to fight because you are not able to. Knowing that, we have to learn how to get rid of it or keep it in check. And there's two ways you can do that. you can either start running, which is a really, really good option, because you will be able to run better than you normally are when you're on adrenaline. You just don't want to sprint, you know. Don't sprint. You'll last for like 30 seconds. You're dead. If you just run away in a calmly fashion, you will use your adrenaline just by running. And you'll see, because it will keep producing as long as you are in a fear mode, you know. And you'll see you will be able to run really, really far. That's why we have something called the Cooper test, which is a 12-minute run. That is used by military all around the world. It's used by athletes all around the world. It is because that is the estimated time for your adrenaline boost. 12 minutes. Not 30 seconds, not 60 seconds, 12 minutes. And I'm not saying you will produce adrenaline for 12 minutes. You won't. You probably will produce adrenaline for like 30 seconds. But it is such a big boost that you will have this effect of that adrenaline for 12 minutes. So my advice is, if you choose to run, pace yourself so you will be running for 12 minutes. That has always been my narrative. How long can you run in 12 minutes? That is what you should train for. That is why the military uses it. Because when you've been shot at and need to get the fuck out of Dodge, you know, you have 12 minutes to do it. I normally say you should be able to run 2 miles in 12 minutes. If you can't do that, don't run. If you can do it, you're actually able to run out 80% of the world population. You can run away from almost any given situation. So that's the threshold. If you can run 2 miles in 12 minutes, choose run. If you can't. If you can't, you choose the other option, which is to run through the opposition. And when you're doing that, you can use adrenaline, the knowledge of adrenaline, to your advantage. When you know that you can burn adrenaline yourself, and you can create adrenaline in the other person's body, you can overwhelm them. That's why you have all this trash talk and fear-mongering in fighting sports. They want the opposition to fear you, so they have this edge over you. Or they only need to have you freeze for a fraction of a second in a time in order to take you out. They are pro athletes. That's all they need. So many people think it's about getting inside people's head and all this stuff, you know, when they're posing and refusing to check gloves, giving you a stare down, you know. It's not. It's creating fear in the other man's mind, even though he doesn't know it. Your body is controlled in ways you can't understand. And it's not you that are controlling many of them. It can be taught, it can be trained like a muscle. No problem. And you can train you can train yourself in using adrenaline as well. But if you don't, your opponent will have this edge over you. And when we know that, and we can't run, and we have made the choice to run through the opposition, you have to, I always say, go loud. That's what I call it. When it's time to go loud, you go really loud, and you go until you're done. You know? When it's time to go, it's because you have exhausted any other possibility. And when you choose to push that button, while you're using your adrenaline on another person, it's because there's no other way and your life is in danger. Or your movement of your body. You know, when you're afraid that you're going to end up in a wheelchair or worse, then it's time. Because understand, if you use this message I'm going to give you now, you're not going to stop. That's the whole point of it. You'll be riding on your own wave of adrenaline. And when you do that, you're not able to stop when you want. You just can't pull the plug on it. And that's very important to understand. And how you trigger your adrenaline for a fight is totally different when you run away. When you run away, you want to keep calm and use and burn your adrenaline. When you go the other way around, you want to get loud, angry, and violent. When you throw the first punch or initiate the takedown, I want you to scream. I want you to, what I want to call it, a war cry, and I want you to exhale as best as you can. You know, keep breathing, and every time you exhale, make a very big sound on it. That's why you hear the kia in karate, you know, and if you look at it, most martial arts are making sounds when they're striking. And this is because of it. It is war. And when you're doing that and you're keeping all that bottled up, your adrenaline will take over and you will not be able to fight. But if you use that adrenaline in the fight, then you realize that is fuel to that fire you're trying to open up. And when you learn that, you will understand what I just said about not switching it off. Because it's like switching off a jet engine. It doesn't stop until it runs out of fuel. That's it. I think you get the point by now. Don't fight. There are no winners in a fight. There are only losers. But if you have to fight, then do it fast, do it violent. Get it all out there. Don't freeze up. So, enough talk. I've spent the first 2 lessons on a concept that I think is very important to understand before we start to fight. You know, I want to teach you how to fight. I want to teach you how to defend yourself. But I want to do it separately. And what you're watching here is the self-defense part. I will make a fighting series as well as this one. So you can choose to watch that instead. If you already know what I'm saying here, don't bother watching this series, because that is what this series is about. How we deal with the defense part of it. How we avoid getting in a fight after all. And how we get damaged as less as possible, as human possible, if we happen to get in a fight. So that's it. From now on, it's only going to be technique. The first 2 lessons, I know they're dull, but they are important. Next concept that I will make in part 3, in lesson number 3, is going to be balance. I'm going to teach you all there is about balance, so hopefully we can get you to stay upright if you ever get in a fight. This is the Polar Bear. Checking out. See you on the flip side.